You are listening to the Mindset Forge podcast. I'm Barton Bryan, your host. Guess what? This is the end of season 4. I'm taking a little pause here. I've got my show coming up. Got a lot of things happening in April. And so taking a quick pause. So in doing so, I want to interview my bodybuilding coach. His name is Chad Hitchcock. And cool thing about Chad is he's not just a bodybuilding coach. Obviously, he's a bodybuilder too. But he's also a football player and currently playing for a professional football team in South Carolina. So he'll talk about that. He's going to talk about all about what he's up to, but specifically how he's been helping me and how he helps other people prep for bodybuilding shows through nutrition, all the things that relate to prepping for bodybuilding. And we'll have a great conversation just about like how it's going, lessons learned, mindset, all those types of things. So make sure you subscribe, like this, share it if you can. If you're watching this on YouTube, obviously, click subscribe, do all the things so that you can get more updates. And definitely check out the library. So many great interviews from amazing performing artists to athletes to people in the field of sports, nutrition, all that type of stuff to help you level up and get 1% better each and every week. So without further ado, my conversation with Chad Hitchcock. All right, folks, I've got Chad Hitchcock here. He's a mover and a shaker in Charleston, North Carolina. I'll tell you how I know that. He's in his car right now, literally between training folks, getting from gym to gym. He's got practice, all these things going on. This guy's 40 years old. He is living the true athlete's life. Chad, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Glad to be on finally.
Yeah, man, this is great. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you see him in his car. He's got baby seats in the back there because he's got a couple of kids, all that kind of stuff. This man is always working. So anyway, we're going to talk a lot about not just him as an athlete, because he is a professional football player currently at 40 years old, some of his experience being a college football player and that gap between college and now, and kind of how you're able to be at such a high level right now. But then we're going to go back. We're also going to talk about him and I. He's my nutrition coach and prep coach for my bodybuilding show. So we're going to dig into that too. So it's going to be a lot of fun today. Let's get into it. Chad, take us back growing up. I mean, I think you broke every high school record imaginable in football. Talk about that time where you were just like, I mean, just understanding you had something special with the sport of football.
Oh man, the good old days. Yeah, so that was Highland High School, by the way, in Bakersfield, California. So if any of you know where the armpit of California is, that's where I live. No, but it was a great time. Loved football. It's funny though, because growing up, my mom was one of those ones like, you're not playing tackle because you're too skinny, and you're not going to do it until you get into high school and you can make your own decisions. And I was like, okay, fine. So I didn't even play tackle football until high school. So started as a wide receiver, actually. And then our starting quarterback got injured. One of these stories, right? And then I was the second string guy, came in, and I ended up winning a game in like the last 2 minutes of the game. And from then on, there was like, okay, Chad, you're a quarterback for the Scotsman from my sophomore year all the way leading through my senior year. All the records and all that stuff happened my senior year. Most passing yards in a season, most touchdowns in a season, and then also, this is a good one, most interceptions. But I also threw the most passes of any quarterback ever in a single season. So, it weighed itself out. We still won games.
It's kind of like Michael Jordan has and Kobe Bryant have some of them. I think they're like leading for most missed shots, but they've shot so many more baskets than everybody else. So it
was like an absurd number of passes, by the way, but I only threw 11 interceptions. So if I look at the touchdown to interception ratio, I was still on top. I was still winning.
So fantastic. So at that time, I mean, you obviously had kind of like a later start as a quarterback, but
yeah,
what were some things that you noticed about yourself, whether it was mindset, like athleticism, talent, that you really leaned into that made you successful?
Well, I was really lucky. My dad was an Olympic runner, track guy, and so he instilled in me early on work ethic as far as athleticism goes, and just thinking like an athlete and all of those things. And when you attack something, you do it with all of your heart and all of your passion and focus, right? So when I went into it, like I knew I had athleticism. So, playing basketball, whatever it was, I was always good at every sport, and I was always starting on every team. So I was like, okay, well, I have something here. And with that being said, I also knew that there was always somebody better because my dad always told me that too. He goes, listen, there's always going to be somebody that's going to work harder than you and that's going to be bigger than you, faster than you, whatever. And I took that as like, no, they're not, or they're not going to be, because I was told you're too skinny, you're too this. Also, so I had both sides chirping at me, and I was like, I'm going to go after the latter, and I'm going to choose that I'm going to be the best that I can be, mind you. And so that was just my focus every single day that I approached practice and whatever. So I always chose myself as like also the leader in the respect that in my mindset, I was like, if I work harder than everyone on the team, the weakest person on my team has got to level up because they got to try and keep up with me. Because although I don't need to work this hard, I'm never going to let them know that I don't need to work this hard. So it just kind of was sort of like a trickle effect, and that just kind of happens throughout the team, right? And so I think with that too, my coaches and everyone else were like, okay, that's special, that's different. He's not a prima donna. He's trying to do what he needs to improve himself every day, but also bring up the people around him. So that was motivation for me too, because I liked seeing others around me level up as well. I guess if that makes sense. But yeah, that was my mindset through every sport, everything I did, football especially. Like I told you a little while ago before we jumped on here, is I was methodical with my just preparation. I would literally ball up a sock, and I would stand in front of I had a den with a bathroom, and so like there was a little hallway that went to the bathroom with a giant mirror in it. And I would literally look at my form and throw the sock at different parts of my body until I hit every single one of them 10 times in a row, exactly how I wanted with perfect form, perfect throwing motion every single time. So I would do that every single night, and to the point where my brother was like, dude, you're a psycho. What are you doing throwing a sock at a mirror? Like, I was like, I'm trying to get better. And that's what I did. And so it translated over to the field because now I could hit whatever spot I wanted to. So I knew exactly when and where and how it felt to throw it to that spot.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I mean, those little things, you hear all these stories about like, Tiger Woods and his kind of methodical preparation and putting and all that type of stuff. Everyone's got to find that. Everyone that wants to get to a higher level or wants to kind of separate themselves, whether you intentionally or intentionally wanted to separate yourself, you were by just the work you were doing. Talk about like just the fact that, I mean, as a quarterback, you're in a very unique situation, probably more even than a point guard. A quarterback truly runs the team on the field, right? And so the better everybody is, the better your team is. And so I think there's such a relationship that you have to have as a quarterback in your leadership role. Talk about that, on the field, whether it's, high school or college, and how you understood that.
Yeah, like for instance, right? So if you're running 220s, which why people still make football players run 220s, I will never know. It's like an endurance run. But we were running that till we puked, right? Well, my coach was like, Chad, you don't need to run this hard. You're good. And I was like, no. Like, I'm going to run until I puke. Like, I'm going to do the things that everyone else is doing because I'm not special. I want them to know that I'm not special, but I'm out here for them, with them, and we're all together. So that way on the field, lights turn on, we're running out the tunnel. It's the same exact thing. I'm for you, you're for me. No one is leaving this field until we've given every ounce that we possibly have to give. And that would be my halftime speech to the team. Like, my coaches wouldn't even need to give a halftime speech because I would grab my offensive linemen first before they could. Or I would grab my receivers, and we're already working on how to beat the defense, in the game. And that, I think, either that's an innate thing. Not every quarterback maybe has that. I don't want to say that they don't, but I know that my coaches trusted me and me a lot. In fact, they gave me plays, and they were like, if you don't like it, change it. It was like a Tom Brady type of moment, honestly. A lot of times it was just like, yeah, I'm seeing this. I don't really like it. Let me change it. And then I'd audible out and do those things. Those were fun. And my team trusted me to do it. And if I didn't do it, and they said, like, Chad, didn't you see that? Why didn't you audible out of that? You have control of the team. Like, this is my team talking to me, and the coach is like, ignore the coaches. Like, that was a terrible play call. I was like, okay. Yeah. But I also told my linemen, too, like, hey, if I'm sucking, grab me by the face mask and say, Chad, stop sucking. And it was funny because I literally had that said to me a few times. But but it's a humbling moment, right? Because I wanted them to know that, again, I'm not on a soapbox. We're on the same level. I'm just out here trying to give you my best. And in return, because I did that on a daily basis, I got their best, whatever that
Yeah.
was. So that was cool. It was a cool thing to see.
Nice. Well, and this is so important because it's 19 years later,
Yeah.
you go to the Charleston Pirates professional football team, and you get an opportunity to try out. Now, the
Yeah.
first tryout, you get COVID, and you're like, you can't go, which had to have broken your heart. I mean, oh
Oh,
my
dude, it's
God,
terrible.
that's
Terrible.
and then but fortunately they let you come try out a couple of weeks later when you were cleared out and
Hmm.
and didn't have COVID and all that kind of stuff. Talk about because it's really fascinating to me. I mean, I think there's a lot of people who have got great stories from high school and college, even playing football, basketball, whatever, but there are very few people that can do what you did, which is 19 years later to show up on a football field, not having played organized football in 18, 19 years, and be able to deliver a performance in tryouts over and over and over again to get the coaches to not only hire you as one of the quarterbacks, but also offer you other opportunities to kind of lead. And so talk about that the tryout experience and kind of what the coaches were saying and what you found you were able to continue to do.
Yeah. So, gosh, that was a fun, crazy moment. I want to start with just saying it was funny because I wrote him an email and I was like, hey, I am 40, just so we're aware. So if you tell me no, we're not hurting my feelings, but I want to give it a try. I think I still got some in the tank. And he's like, oh, no, come try out. I guess zero expectations for me either. And that's from him later on. He said, okay, I'm going to let this guy sink his own ship. That's what he thought. Um, so I went out there when I was healthy, right? So I went out and it's funny because head coach, he couldn't make it out. There was a defensive guy that went out there, but he called me and he said, listen, over the conversations that we've had and the different things that I've seen from you or heard about you, I want you to run the whole offense while you're out there at this tryout. Call the plays. You're a seasoned guy. You've known what you're talking about. You've coached for a long time too. So go do it. I was like, oh, geez, okay, zero pressure. So I go out there and I just was slinging the rock, as they say, but it all came back to me. I mean, the preparation was there, my warm up, everything that I used to do. It was really like they say, and again, it's cliche, but it's like riding a bike, right? You get on, and yeah, there might be a rusty throw at first, but once you get loose, you get firing. It just felt natural again, and I zeroed in. I just honestly, I focused on all the things that I knew how that I could control, and I went from there. But I will say another key factor to this, which they really enjoyed, and I'll take this from a leadership side of things, is that I went in with this unstoppable confidence in myself in that I knew I could relate to the guys right away. I was going to go and shake everyone's hand, tell them who I was, ask them who they were, and then once we got going, I'm dabbing up everyone, high-fiving, shaking hands, fixing plays, adjusting routes, helping the other quarterback who was also there with his timing and drops and all the things. So with me having to do that for other people, it leveled me up above the others, and not because I'm doing anything like, maybe like mind blowing, but I think that experience, the confidence, and like you were talking about earlier, how to rally a team around you, I guess, from a leadership standpoint, and then getting them to then like give their all and have fun doing it. That's what I saw happening. And that's what they saw happening. And they're like, oh, we need this dude in our locker room. And so like there's like, we need you on the team. I was the first one they sent a contract to of all the guys that I tried out with. And so that was fun to sign that. That was a great Tuesday night. It was a Tuesday night, and I was like 10 o'clock at night, and I signed it, and I couldn't sleep until midnight because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a pro athlete. Uh, Lifelong dream came true. So that's kind of how that went down.
Yeah, I mean it's fantastic, and 40 for so many people, 40 feels old or feels like the end of your youth or something like that. And I just feel like it's such a powerful thing that you were able to kind of like you've been so healthy in your life, being a bodybuilder, being somebody who's in the fitness industry, like keeping yourself at a place where you didn't have to like go do some like significant, training for months to be prepared for that. You could just like go out there and do it, and that's a testament to who you are today too. Talk about the team. Obviously the Charleston Pirates. It's a professional football team within the construct of like kind of the various leagues and things like that. Explain how that works, what this team's a part of, and how it relates to the NFL.
Yeah, so the Charleston Pirates is a part of a league called the UFL, United Football League. So it's been through it's had different looks throughout the years. It's not the first time it's happened. This is the third rendition of the league. It previously came in 2009 to 2012, I think it lasted. It was 11 on 11. There's a lot of like retired NFL guys and guys trying to get back to the league. It didn't go over well. They only had 4 teams to play in the entire league. This has 14 teams right now, and it's changed from 11 on 11 to 8 on 8. It's now arena style football, but it's outside. And so it's high scoring, fast paced, 60-yard field, 34.5-yard wide. So it's going to be a lot more fast paced, like I said, a lot higher scores, big hits, the walls on the side. So think WWE meets wrestling or meets football. That's kind of how I'm expecting it to go. But as far as it connects to the NFL, so it's like UFL, then the USFL, XFL are kind of on that same level. It's a spring ball program, but they still get looks and everyone shares film to then go to the NFL. So NFL being obviously the top dog in that, and Canadian football. So it's like, I think it's like UFL, USFL, and XFL are on the same line, and then you have Canadian, and then you have the NFL. So it's like a farm league, but still pro. It's not semi-pro as they say, but it's a pro football league.
Very good. When's the first game?
So the first game is April 22nd. It's a home game here in Charleston. So feel free, everyone, to buy your plane tickets, fly in. That's $21 for a ticket.
Boom.
Fill up your Saturday night, 6 p.m.
There you go. That's fantastic. So you got about a little over a month to go, and how many games are you going to play in the season?
There are 14 games, so it literally is every week. So starting April 22nd, it goes through July, and then there's going to be a small playoff and a championship, and that could carry into beginning of August.
Right. All right. Good. Hey, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
In the show notes, I'll put some links on like where you can find out more information about the Charleston Pirates and things like that. But let's talk now about, you've been a trainer, you've been a nutrition coach, you're a bodybuilder and a prep coach. So talk about, that part of your life and just how rewarding it is and what you love most about it.
Man, so it's loaded only because personal training is what got me out of a very bad time in my life. So without getting too emotional about it, I went through a really hard time with PTSD, and I crawled out of that by trying to find out what brought me passion and happiness, and it ended up being coaching. So I started with coaching first. Then I met my now wife, and she got me to get my personal training certificate when we used to live in California. And because she says, you're so good with people, you love training people, you should do this. And so I was like, why not? Yeah, I'll go do that. So that's how it all began. I started training in California for a sports training company called Impact, and also a gym, Mavericks, in Ventura, California. But then we moved all the way across the country and landed in North Carolina, Charlotte to be exact, and that's where I met you a few years later because of then Camp Gladiator came around. So that was a huge transition, going from like a gym setting, sports training specific, to then a boot camp style, functional training, stretching and growing me there. Well, during the CG years there in Charlotte, I also got into bodybuilding. So that's where that love. So training happened. Love training. Love impacting lives. It was amazing. It made me feel good every single day. That was huge. But I knew that something was missing inside of myself. So remember, like that huge gap we talked about football, that was a huge gap, and that's what used to bring me joy. I was like, I still need to compete. I'm still a competitor. So how do I do that? Bodybuilding happened. So I met a guy named Matt Cusano. He was my coach for, 8 years. So and he is such a genius. And he taught me so much about bodybuilding, and I learned so much about myself and just the different modalities and nutrition and all of the things that go into that and the science behind the whys and where do you eat and how and what time of day and all the things. How much sleep do I need? All those things that I have. So it just really inspired me to just keep digging and learning more about that. And so
Mm-hmm.
I fell in love with bodybuilding. Now, granted, everyone, I am not like a pro, but I did compete in NPC quite a few times. I got second. It's not first, it's second. But it was fun. Still, men's physique, it was good times. Um, then, you know, me and you started talking about it a little bit a few years ago, and we're getting chiseled up, me and Joe. Uh, and I think that at that moment, I was like, okay, no, I need to do something with like nutrition because that's such a big component of this, and it's going
Mm-hmm.
to help my clients in the long run. So I ended up getting certified in nutrition, became an online nutrition coach, helping clients everywhere. And then Camp Gladiator got nutrition, and then it's weird because then as I'm posting about things, I got to talk more about all of the different ways that I've helped myself and my clients. People are seeing results. And, it's just one of those things. One thing leads to another, and then Bart drops in my lap and says, "Hey, Chad, I want to do a bodybuilding show. I have a coach. Here's this. It's going great, but I want to transition to you and make a run for it." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay, let's go, let's go." Because that was it. Like this, honestly, Bart, for me is like a pinnacle moment in my bodybuilding career, nutrition experience because it's so fun to manipulate calories and to figure out what works for you because what works for you may not work for me, or what may work for me is definitely
Right.
not going to work for you because we're two different people. Here's a good thing though, folks. I want you to understand Bart is also 6'4", roughly almost 6'5". He's about 230 pounds himself when he started. I'm 6'5", 230. So working on his calories has been a breeze. Is this the same for everyone? No, but it's worked out in my favor. And Bart, I'll have to give you props too, and I know we're going to move forward through this thing. Bart has been a perfect pupil, if I must say. He has questioned me at times, and all I say is trust the process.
Trust the process. We did it this morning. I said, I'm like, what about this stuff in the back? I haven't lost all the fat. And he's like, trust the process. Because right now we're about 4.5 weeks, less than
Mm-hmm.
4.5 weeks, really almost 4 weeks. It'll be Saturday be 4 weeks out. And so we have about a week to go before we really ramp up kind of the last part of the diet to kind of get myself stage ready. And so, yeah,
Just chipping
so, but
away.
yeah, but Chad, I will. It's just been it's been awesome training with you, or, working with you, and one of the things, couple of things that I really enjoy about what we're doing is that you're proactive. You're giving me what's coming up next a week or so because I'm a worrier, right? Like I'm start worrying like what's next? Like is it going to be good? Is it going to be hard? Do I need to go shopping? La la la. And it's like
Yep.
to get that stuff a week and a half out. I'm like, oh, I can go mentally prepare or like know that like, hey Bart, enjoy all this, all these carbs now because 3 weeks out from the show, they're going away, right? Like
Oh
we're
yeah.
going back down to 150 carbs a day, on workout days. And so, it's just an interesting thing. But I like your communication, your clarity, just kind of handling the holistic part of it has been awesome. And of course, the fact that I'm doing this natural too, and just there's so many things that because I'm a natural bodybuilder, like you can't do with me that you could do with somebody who's using Anavar or test or something like that pre-show to keep all the muscle. And so I always have to think about that. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
man, you know, one of the goals is to keep muscle as we lose the body fat, and we can't just be like hatchet job, like just pulling all this, everything out of our diet so that we like, and ended up like just overtraining and losing muscle and showing up
Yeah, I
really
mean, I can
flat.
make
And
you
so,
skinny. I don't want to make you
right,
skinny.
no, we don't want that. Okay, so talk about, and this is, you're talking about me, I guess, in this moment, but like talk about how you were thinking about this 12-week journey, because I hired you 12 weeks out, right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of a perfect 12 weeks to go. And so talk about how you thought about the 12-week journey and kind of just the thought process you've had over the, the last, 8 weeks.
Yeah. Honestly, like I was saying before, luckily you had a really strong foundation. You had already made a lot of progress, and me and you had talked a little bit about your calories prior to this, so I kind of had
Mm.
an idea of a roadmap I was going to take you down from that moment. Um, but most preps are like 16 weeks long anyway, and at 12
Mhm.
weeks, I knew that I could trim you down for the first four. Let's do some, like as far as I'm gonna give you a lot of volume in your workouts, so that way you're not using such high weight uh, to just really push blood into the muscle, slow things down, have you burn as much calories as possible without doing a ton of cardio, um, and then pack you full of calories, right? So I knew that I could do it on the front end because after those 4 weeks I was going to strip it from you for like a
Mhm.
week and a week and a half to then chisel you down. So it's like it's a fine line and a little bit of a dance that you play with calories and the body is like I need you full enough for your muscles to look bigger on stage. I need them rounder. So I need to give you more calories so that you can do more in the gym, tear down the muscle, recover faster, and maintain and build good solid muscle fibers. On the flip side to that, I also need to make sure that we're leaning you down enough and that your fat is not so high and your digestion is working, optimally. So that way we're also burning more fat than we are anything else and maintaining muscle, right? So I'm really trying to manipulate you in that way. And so, like I said, like enjoy the calories now that I just gave you back because I'm trying. Like right now, Bart's going through like a mini bulk, like we'll call it a fat burning bulk right now. And he's like, dude, I don't know,
I
but
would be like,
he,
dude, are you sure? I literally texted him a picture of my plate. There was so much
yeah,
rice on it. I'm like, are you sure this is how much
that is
rice you
correct.
want? And he's like, yeah,
That
that's
is
right. I'm
correct.
like, ah. The
Well,
first
think about
couple
it this way
meals, I
too.
couldn't. Literally, the first couple meals, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to eat all that food. I think my
Yeah,
stomach had shrunk from the last 4 weeks, and it
yeah.
was like, you want this much, but like, here's the cool thing is like, we started doing these bike sprints, and the workouts were
Hmm.
hard, and still got the stairmaster at the end, and once my metabolism just like was going crazy, I was hungry. Like I was like, oh, I need every ounce of that. I need all those chicken breasts. I need all
Yeah.
that, meat and
And that was my next point. Is
nutrition.
like
So
we've set your metabolism up to be like I told you. Like I'm setting you up to be an inferno of there's fat burning because we've done all that before. Your body's ready to just uptake, uptake, uptake. And so you getting more calories is not going to make you fat or have you hold a bunch of weight. Instead, it's going to go to the places we need it to go. But it's also an experimentation, like I told you too, right? We got to see how your body reacts to it. If it reacted negatively, where all of a sudden you got bloated and puffy, oh gosh, okay, we gotta eliminate, right? So that's how, unfortunately, that's how it works. But you responded beautifully to it. You're still responding really well to it. Like Bart won't admit to it, but he just did a back pose for me where it's a back lat spread, and you can actually see full rhomboids, delts, everything is cutting all the way down to his low back. His erector spinae is just like popping. So like he doesn't know. It's like okay, well I'm holding
well,
some love
look,
handles.
I
All right.
was it was mid workout yesterday, and you can never really see your own back, so you're like you throw in the lat spread, trying to get it in the video, and then but yeah, I mean like that's so cool what's happened. You think about dieting, you think, wow, I just kind of have what you have, right? Like whatever you built over the bulk phase of your of kind of before prep, you think, okay, that's what I got. Now I'm just going to lean out and try to hold as much as you can. But I feel like honestly, in the last 8 weeks, we've actually built my back. Like my
Yep.
back has gotten not just sharper, but there are more muscles popping out, especially inner back and the rhomboid
Hmm.
area. That is always a weak spot for me. I was felt very flat in the middle back and in the rhomboids, and kind of decent in some of the upper lats and traps.
And
And
I got to
so
give again. I got to give my coach Matt Cruzan a lot of credit. because he
Yeah.
taught me this too, is that a lot of coaches make the mistake of eliminating food too early. Like you just keep taking,
Mm.
taking, taking, and there's nothing left. And then the person gets on stage and they're flat and they're skinny. They don't look muscular anymore. They just look like a thin pencil on stage. Especially those that are
Yeah.
natural. You're a natural athlete. I can't have you eating nothing just to make you skinny. Like you'll
Yeah.
be shredded, but you'll look like a a marathon runner up there compared
Yeah.
to some of these other guys. So
Yeah, and being 6'4" too. I mean, you're very tall like me. It's like you stretch all that muscle out. It can look very flat and very unimpressive quickly
yes,
if you don't do it right.
yes. But we're gonna do it right. I'm excited for the next few phases. Just you wait, Bart. It's gonna get fun. Uh, I'm not gonna give away all my secrets, but I will say that we do have a solid game plan, even leading up to the day of, night before, and morning of the show. I've got, just so you know, Bart has that, and then when you do meal prepping and you do contest prep, it is, you got to have a coach. If it not me, if it's another coach, like have a coach that is gonna literally dial you in to the minute you walk on that stage. It's got to be precise. It's got to be precise, and they
Yeah.
got to care about that. Otherwise, it's just generic and not worth your money.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, and I'm sure it's different for everybody, but I will tell you, if you're listening to this, the mindset, like awareness that I got recently, especially like since working with Chad, is that when a coach gives you everything you need, like a book, like this is the workout, this is how many seconds between reps, this is like the rep count, this is what I want here, this is the cardio, like, then you're not ever like figuring stuff out, right? You're not trying to figure out like, do I do this? Is this good? Should I? It is just the law. Like I walk into the gym, I got 5 minutes of warm up on the treadmill, then I got 10 minutes of bike sprints, then I got this and this, I got my mobility, and then I got to hit this hour long workout, and then I got 20 minutes. Like it's just is what I do, right? And the same thing with the food. I meal prep, I get it all, I weigh it out, and it just becomes like a habit, and that is freedom. And that's what at first it's hard, it's like, oh, I got to think of this stuff. I'm like, oh, I got 3 meetings back to back. Where am I getting my food in? Those things are frustrating at times, but but you got to plan for them. But what's magic about what you've done, Chad, is you've really just like laid it out. This is what you do for the workouts, for the meals, this and that. There's a little bit of flexibility, like chicken versus turkey, or red meat or salmon, like giving me a couple options. But for the most part, it is lock solid. This is exactly what I need to do, and that gives me freedom to just do it and not have a bunch of like my brain power working on like what am I supposed to do today. I just do execute the plan to the best of my ability is the best way for me on a day-to-day basis to get results. I say,
Yep.
how can I best execute my plan, or Chad's plan in this sense?
And the other part of that too is, like you're talking about, the mindset part of this. As I tell you and all my clients, really is your goal when you attack the gym should not be like, did I miss a meal? What should I have had this? What should the reps be? Your only goal is to go in and think first place. How do I get to first place? By coming in here pissed off at these weights, and I'm gonna crush it. I'm an animal today because I've been fed. I know what I'm going to do. I have the game plan. It's been written out for me. I'm going to execute, like you just said. I need to come in here and just crush it every day.
Yeah.
If you do that every day, right, just start stacking up. So it's that compound
Mm-hmm.
effect, and it ends up with excellent results. So you do those
Yeah.
things, and you have that mindset of you're a champion before you ever began to get near the stage. That's an edge that somebody else doesn't have, that they're questioning every day. Is that the right thing? Should I do that? Oh, that seems like a lot of rice. I don't know. Like, uh,
Yeah.
you just do it and execute to the highest ability, just like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too that I had this underdog aspect of this, being a natural bodybuilder doing an NPC show. And just for those listening, NPC doesn't mean that you are on steroids, but like they don't test, so they're gonna let anybody who is on or off whatever they come and and compete at the same level. There's no testing, and so the fact that I know that I'm natural, all it means to me is there's like an internal voice that says like you got to show up that much better just to be able to like take on those other 45-year-old males in men's physique at the highest level.
That's crazy in itself. So that's why I said you got to have a killer mentality coming into this thing, because there are guys that are on gear. It's going to happen uh, at these shows, and the smaller guys look bigger than you anyway, and you're a 6'4", lanky arms, legs, torso. So you've got to train as hard, if not harder. But then you also have to come in with a confidence about you, because they also look for that. So you can be on gear, whatever. That doesn't mean you're going to bring your best package or confidence on stage or posing presence. All of those things have to come together to make you win. So these guys that are on gear, they could get last place. And you being a natural, you can get, first, second, or third. It doesn't matter. It's just whoever brings the best package that day and brings that stage presence on top of everything else and works the hardest at their posing so that they maximize the things that they have, or I guess their best attributes. And if you have a bigger waist, make sure your angles are such that it makes you look like you have a small waist, right? So you have to figure that stuff out, where maybe the guy next to you didn't do that. He's relying on the fact that he's geared up. I don't know. His biceps are big. Who knows what
Right.
they're coaching, what they're focusing on. So I'll say that. So yeah, you are a bit of an underdog if you think about it that way. But at the same time, your preparation, your effort that has gone into your prep is above par, well above. So know that you've done the work. Your dues have been
Yeah.
paid, uh, and that
Right.
you're going to bring your best. That's all you can. That's all you can control. That's all you can handle. I mean, that's all you need to go in with. And as far as your mindset being forged around your prep here, going with like this mindset for yourself that I could not have done anything more than what
Yeah.
I've done to bring my best package.
Well, and it's really one of the other kind of pieces of this, and I think this translates to smarter versus working. Like, there's the idea that like, oh, if I just go on another run, if I just do some more push-ups or sit-ups or it's like there's more to do, and there's this kind of like manic
Yeah,
desperation of like somebody who's preparing for a marathon, a bodybuilding show, anything, right? Where they just think, well, hey, I just got to do more. I just got to run more miles. I got to do more sit-ups. I got to do, and that doesn't really work, right? Like it's about having a program that like has a long-term strategy of taking you from where you are to where you want to be, and then trusting that and doing within the confines of that program, doing it to the best of your ability,
yep,
right? Because I could be like, man, I feel great today. I'm going to go ahead and do 20 more minutes on the Stairmaster. That'll be great. I'll tell Chad, I did 40 minutes today. But understanding that, like, no, it's not about doing 20 extra minutes. It's about doing the work, the best of your ability, with the intensity and the kind of focus that it demands, and then letting that be enough,
yeah,
letting that be what it's supposed to be on that day, knowing you got to get water, knowing you got to get nutrition, knowing you got to get a good night's sleep. You can't over fatigue your nervous system, all that kind of stuff. Taking a day off I found that if I 2 days on of like this training requires one day off. Like if I can have that rhythm, because I've done 3 days on, and I could on that third day I can feel my body like lagging, like I just don't have a full tank, right? And it's because of the diet, because of the intensity of the workouts, the volume, all that kind of stuff, and that's a big thing that I've noticed. So
well, and there's such a thing as overtraining, right? You know this, and same
mhm.
thing goes with bodybuilding. Your body will actually fall apart. You'll start holding water. You'll do all these things because inflammation starts to build in the joints and the muscles because you're overtraining. So the growth really happens on the days off anyway. So yeah, you're killing yourself during those workouts, sure, but you don't actually are not making any improvements in the gym. You're making all of the gains and all of the You're shredding up when you're resting, when you're sleeping. Those are the moments that are important. If you're doing that right, you're way far beyond the person that's like, yeah, 20 extra minutes on that treadmill. Why? I didn't tell you to do that. So now you're putting too much stress on your body.
Right.
So, yeah,
Yep.
it's exactly what you said. But yeah, those moments of rest are so crucial for growth.
Yeah.
And that's deep
And I
because
think
that's a life thing.
I know it's a life thing too. And that I I'm a coach, I train people. I have personal clients. I do Camp Gladiator, all that kind of stuff. I just revel in having a coach, having someone to give me what I try to give other people, right? Like, just having somebody in your corner, like telling you what to do, like giving you that feedback, and sometimes it's like today, like, trust the process, Bart, calm the hell down. Let's
Yeah.
go. We got this. Don't get freaked out because you got a little bit back fat that you're worried about, 4 weeks out
Right.
from the show. You're going to be okay. Right. And so, you know, my recommendation to you, if you're listening to this, like, hire Chad, hire someone like Chad, myself, whoever, get yourself a coach for something you're working on doing, because that is what, you're going to get to where you want to be in a lot better shape, because you're going to know with somebody who's already done it before, understands how to do it, and can prep you for it. And just having that guidance, that support is key. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
So, hey, we're going to drop this. This is coming out here in mid-March, right around spring break. Chad's got about a month before his first professional football debut.
Yeah, baby.
Charleston Pirates. It's going to be epic. And if you're someone who's got a business, you want to sponsor a football team, they are looking for sponsors for the football team. So reach out to Chad if you want any more information on that. We want to make sure that he's got some companies and people, like, football is a great way to get your brand out there, that kind of stuff. So Charleston Pirates are looking for more sponsors. So reach out to Chad for any information like that. And of course, reach out to Chad if you need yourself a prep coach
Hey.
or nutrition
Yeah.
coach.
For any
Or
of the
anything.
above. But let me one
Anything.
more thing about the sponsorship thing, which is super
Yeah.
important and big on my heart before we take off on this thing,
Yeah.
is just like in coaching, right? Everything I do has a bigger purpose and meaning behind it. I want all my clients to grow exponentially for themselves. Well, with the Pirates, the sponsorships and all of those things, what we're trying to actually do with that is, one, to take care of players that are moving here from other cities. We're trying to make sure that they have a wonderful experience. But bigger than that, and Bart, you won't be surprised when I say this, but the other thing is I'm trying to get the city or the team actually to infiltrate the city and give back to the community in big ways, like going to children's hospitals, doing food drives, having big block parties and things like that, where we get to bring the community and rally around each other to just say, hey, let's use our platform for the good, the betterment of our society, yes, and also to grow these men that are coming up through this pro league that are not 40, so that they can lead families, lead communities in a much better way themselves. And so we're here to inspire and to grow and to build, and we can't do that without you. So that's my plug and big ask on that is, above all else, man, this is more than just football.
Yeah. And that's what I love about you, Chad. For most people, it would be like, man, I got my shot. I'm going to be a professional footballer. I don't want to distract myself with anything else. You're always looking big picture. You're always looking, how can this be a community-based thing? How can we bring the Pirates to the community of Charleston and create connection there? So, man, proud of you. Can't wait to see how all this
Thank you.
goes. We'll get all that information in the show notes and get this out so people can listen and find different ways to support.
Hey, man, I love you. I appreciate you. Thanks for allowing me to come on here to Mindset Forge.
All right, Chad Hitchcock giving us the goods. So, like I mentioned, April, he's going to have his first professional football game, quarterback. It's a big deal. So definitely follow him. You can find him on Instagram. Check the show notes for his Instagram handle. And if you're interested in coaching, contest prep, something like that, Chad can be your guy. Definitely reach out to him. I'll drop his email in there too if you want to send him a message. And like I mentioned at the beginning, this is the last episode of season 4. I'm going to take a little hiatus. While I'm on the hiatus, definitely recommend you going back and checking out some of my greatest hits. a couple in the sports realm. If you did not hear Luke Walton, NBA champ, great interview. He's my cousin, so we go into a lot of detail about like him growing up with his dad, Bill, his mindset working with Kobe and all that kind of stuff, just being a winner at the highest level. Another one I loved was Phil DeRue. Phil and I are actually going to be doing some work together this summer on a tour. He is somebody you need to follow. Phil DeRue, the Daru Strong podcast. He is an absolutely like the highest level as a trainer, MMA strength and conditioning coach, and athlete himself. So got to listen to that one. What else? A couple more. Andrew Simonsky, Broadway singer, amazing guy, great story. Dealt with alcoholism, got sober, kind of figured out his authentic voice, went beyond just his looks and his presentation, and found that vulnerable, like relatable side that so many people can really relate to as a leading man. I love his interview. And recently, I had an episode with actor Laura Cayouette, who was on Friends. She was in the movie Django Unchained. Has done multiple movies with Quentin Tarantino, including Kill Bill 2, but has a great story, just powerful mindset around how she made it, what she does to show up at her best for those performances, auditions, her as a writer now, and just advice she has for young actors, writers, and people in the performance art space. So highly recommend those three. There's a lot of great ones, but those would be the three. If you haven't checked those out, go check those out before my next season shows up later this spring. All right, thanks again for listening to the Mindset Forge podcast.